seem to have a clue of what's coming.
Right. So that's very scary. It sounds like only the wealthy are going to be able to get by.
That seems to be the idea.
Wow, that's very dangerous. Very
Not
scary.
if you're wealthy.
Well, no.
If you're wealthy, that's the ideal. That's recovery. And the wealthy say, we have to get rich because you wouldn't have a job without the rich people. You owe your jobs to the fact that we rich people are spending the money and investing. You need us. That's the myth, that the host needs the parasite, whereas it really doesn't need it at all.
Exactly, but that could lead to a big social instability.
It could. I'm not sure where it would come from. I mean, all people can do right now is say, well, we're certainly not going to vote for the Democrats because they're not helping things, and they're voting for the Republicans. Who would have ever guessed? Simply because the Republicans are not doing anything at all. And they'll clean up, but of course, once they're in office, they'll do exactly the same thing. And as long as you can get people bouncing from one party to another that has basically the same program, you're just going to get slower and slower, more poor. Usually, in most countries, the result's emigration.
Could you say a little bit about what's going on in Greece right now and Europe generally, the Eurozone?
The Greek government has difficulty paying its debts because essentially the government is very corrupt, and it's bought off corruption for the insiders by giving away a lot of very high pensions and giving away money to the other side of the political spectrum. And so it's an economy that really doesn't pay its way. And it can't create euros, unlike the United States, because it's part of the European Union. So basically, Greece doesn't have a way of financing itself, and this is leading to thoughts of, it can't just print the money, unlike a sovereign country, because it's like a state. The problems that Greece and Ireland and Spain have are the problems of California and Illinois and Nevada being states, not national governments. And the state can be in trouble because it has to use money supplied by a central authority, in Europe's case, the European Union. And the problem is that states can't do it. So you can look at Greece sort of like you'd see California, in a budget deficit, unable to pay, and in danger of default.
In another show, you talked about how in the Eurozone, they can't run big deficits.
Countries that are supposed to join Europe, the so-called New Europe countries, the post-Soviet bloc and Iceland, have their own local currencies, unlike Greece and Spain that use the euros. And they are supposed to not run deficits in order to be able to qualify for membership in the European Union. But of course, now that the European countries themselves are running deficits, the other countries are all running deficits, and so nobody knows what will happen. The reality is that European expansion is more or less stopped, and in fact, the European banks have lent very heavily to emerging Europe, Latvia, the Baltics, Hungary, and they've lost their shirts on bad mortgages, and so the European banking system is in trouble. Fortunately, the banks have been able to sell most of their bad debts to the pension funds and the mutual funds, so that it's labor that's losing there, and the solution over there is the same over here. European governments say there's no problem we have if we don't just cut living standards in half. So the European policy now, led by the labor parties, is to reduce living standards and essentially squeeze out enough of a surplus to be able to pay the banks for the bad loans they've made. So their policy is the same as Obama's Rubenomics policy here.
Yes, and I've been seeing a lot written about fears of sovereign debt defaults.
Yes, they're not really all that sovereign. It's sort of like saying California can't pay its bonds, or it's like New York State, New York City in the 1970s, when New York City almost went bankrupt until it turned over the management of the city to the financial managers. And essentially that's what's happening in Europe. It means that the governments really are just turned over to the bankers to run.
But what happens if the states default, or in the case of Europe, the separate countries that make up the Eurozone default?
Then the holders of their bonds don't get paid. Just like in this country, if California goes under, then the pension funds that hold California bonds don't get paid, and so they're wiped out. And if they lose money on the bonds, then the labor savings are wiped out. So in Europe, the pension funds that hold these government bonds essentially will be left with worthless IOUs, and the only way to repay these bonds will be to increase taxes on labor, reducing living standards all the more. So no matter what happens, either labor loses its savings, or if it keeps its savings in bonds, it has to pay much higher taxes. That's the choice that Europe faces, and it's why Europe is going to be shrinking.
And it sounds like that's the same thing that's happening here in the United States.
Yes.
So it looks like the United States and Europe are going the same way.
That's the idea.
Dr. Michael Hudson, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bonnie.
There's something happening here. Yeah. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there.
I've been speaking with Dr. Michael Hudson. Today's show has been The New Junk Economics, From Democracy to Neoliberal Oligarchy. Michael Hudson is a financial economist and historian. He is president of the Institute for the Study of Long-Term Economic Trend, a Wall Street financial analyst and distinguished research professor of economics at the University of Missouri, Kansas City. His 1972 book, Super Imperialism, The Economic Strategy of American Empire, is a critique of how the United States exploited foreign economies through the IMF and World Bank. He is also author of Trade, Development, and Foreign Debt, and soon to be published America's Protectionist Takeoff, 1815 to 1914, about the 19th century, both available at Amazon.com. A few of his most recent articles that we discussed today are The Bernanke Reappointment, Be Afraid, Be Very Afraid, and his speech to the Labour Party in Australia, The Counter-Enlightenment, Its Economic Program, and the Classical Alternative. Dr. Hudson has been a consultant to foreign governments including Canada, Mexico, Russia, and Latvia. Visit his website at www.michael-hudson.com. That's michael-hudson.com. His articles are also regularly carried at globalresearch.ca, counterpunch.org, and the University of Missouri Kansas City Economics Department blog at neweconomicperspectives.blogspot.com. That's neweconomicperspectives.blogspot.com. Guns and Butter is produced and edited by Bonnie Faulkner and Yarrow Mako. To make comments or order copies of shows, email us at blfaulkner@yahoo.com. That's blfaulkner@yahoo.com. Or call 510-848-6767, extension 628.